Hi, I'm Anwiti Singh and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about actor Paresh Rawal's comments on Bengali migrants in Gujarat. We also talk about how milk cooperatives play a role in the Gujarat elections. But first, we talk about Mallikarjun Kharge's first meeting of the Congress Steering Committee. On Sunday, Kharge, who is the newly elected president of Congress, delivered a strong message to the organization's office bearers. He also asked them to deliver a roadmap for the 2023 Assembly elections and the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. In our first segment, Indian Express's Manoj CG joins us to talk about this meeting and Congress's future plans. So Manoj, could you begin by telling us why this steering committee meeting was held?
Now, a steering committee is a body which is put into place generally after the election of a new Congress president. In the sense, we saw Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge taking over as the Congress president in October. So, the Congress Working Committee, which was in place, which is the apex decision and policy-making body of the party, which was in place, was appointed by the previous president. Now, there's a new president in place, so he has to handpick a team, a working committee. And in the Congress scheme of things, the Congress Constitution says a working committee is constituted after a plenary session. It's a session of AICC delegates from across the country. They will ratify the election of the Congress president and then either authorize the Congress president to constitute the Congress Working Committee or go for election. According to the Constitution, Congress Constitution says 12 of its members are elected out of the 25 and the rest are nominated. So that is a process. So there is no Congress Working Committee which was constituted by the new president. So what the Constitution says is that he can turn the Congress Working Committee into a steering committee. Only the name changes. The members remain the same. So this steering committee will now function till the plenary session. So the meeting of the steering committee, which happened on Sunday, was to decide the date and venue of the AICC plenary session. And it decided that the plenary will happen in the second half of February in Raipur. So that was the main agenda of the steering committee.
Okay, and can you talk about Mallikarjun Kharge's message to the party during this meeting?
So the first time the Congress president addresses the working committee or the steering committee, it was not expected to be a detailed revealing of his mind and all. But he did that yesterday. Surprisingly, he did some, plain talking. He bluntly asked the AICC General Secretaries. General Secretaries are those who are in charges of states. Then there are in charges of states. They are not of the level of General Secretaries. All of them are present. All of them are members of the CWC or the steering committee. So he asked them, honestly, tell me, have you spent at least 10 days a month in the state in which you are in charge of? And what is the roadmap? The message that the AICC gives in terms of agitation and all. Have these agitations been happening? About the frontal organizations, about various departments. Departments like there's an SC department, there's an ST department. These are organized in terms of different sections. There's a body for the farmers. So all these bodies, have they been meeting? Have they been, at the ground doing agitation? He basically told them, have you been working at all? So tell me, in that sense. And what is a roadmap? There are states where elections will be happening next year, like Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana towards the end of next year, Karnataka in May, then Tripura and some northeastern states in February. So he basically asked them, what is the roadmap for parties' activities till the elections? And after that, of course, in 2024, there's a big Lok Sabha election. So then he told them, see, there is a sense that accountability is not being enforced. So what is your responsibility as the in charge, as the office bearer? What is your responsibility towards the party? And what about accountability? So he said most of the people doing a good job, they know their responsibility and accountability. But there are some who believe perhaps even if they don't perform their duties, it will be ignored. So he clearly told them, see, it will not be the same. You will have to perform or just make way for new colleagues. So it's either step up or step aside. That was a clear message sent by him.
Right. So Manoj, the way Kharge took a strong stand at the first meeting of the steering committee, is this the usual approach taken by the party's presidents?
Of course, the party president keep issuing such strong statements. But it was surprising because Kharge is considered as a very soft-spoken, veteran leader, who just been elected as the Congress president. It was his first meeting. So given all that, and Previously, when Mrs. Sonia Gandhi or Mr. Rahul Gandhi was the president, the Gandhis, at least the party, considered them to have much more authority as the Congress president. So even if they indulge in some tough talk, it never comes as a surprise. So in Mr. Kharge's case, one, it is uncharacteristic. It's not in his nature. He's considered a very, consensus kind of a person. Secondly, he has just stepped in as the Congress president. So when you view all that, it was surprising.
And what about party's plan for the future? Was that discussed at the meeting?
No, at Sunday's meeting, no big plan was made out. At least there was this direction from the Congress president asking all the in charges of states to prepare a roadmap for the next 3 months, how to take it forward. The decisions which came out of the meeting was to do a massive follow-up campaign to the Bharat Jodo Yatra, which Mr. Rahul Gandhi is now leading. So the plan is to end the Yatra on Republic Day in Srinagar. That will be on January 26 in Srinagar. The Yatra is now in Rajasthan. From there it will move into UP, Delhi, Haryana, Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. Finally it will end in Srinagar on January 26. So the party believes that the Yatra so far has been a big success. It is getting traction. So how to keep this momentum going? So the one decision which was taken at the steering committee was to organize a 2-month campaign, taking the message of this Yatra to every village and every block. So there will be similar Padayatras. Every block committee will organize, every block, every village. Haath se haath jodo, that is what they have named the campaign. Then there will be women conventions or meetings, which ICC General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra will address. In various states, there will be separate women-oriented manifestos for each state. So this campaign is essentially should be a follow-up to the Bharat Jodo Yatra. So next year is a big election year. There are several big states going to elections next year. So there is also a plan for Mr. Gandhi to lead another yatra from the east to west or west to east. And now this is from south to north. So from Arunachal Pradesh to Gujarat, from Porbandar to Parshuram Kund, or the other way around. It could be a hybrid yatra because of the terrain that the yatra will have to cover. So it could be in walking for some time in vehicles or buses. In that kind of a hybrid yatra they are planning. It's not in the final stage. So next year there will be the momentum which the party believes it has gained from this yatra. The idea is to take it forward maybe in the later half of next year. After this, again the AICC plenary session which will be held in Raipur. From there the big message, the big preparation for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections will come out of that session, because an AICC session happens, a plenary session happens once in 5 years. So that will be a big conclave, a 3-day conclave. So the big roadmap, the strategies and all for the elections will come out of that.
Okay, so we talked about the future plan, but Manoj, did they talk about elections in Himachal Pradesh or Gujarat or the current government?
I mean, they did stock taking on the Gujarat and Himachal elections. Frankly, the party is not very hopeful about Gujarat, but they are very hopeful about Himachal Pradesh. So the internal reports say the party expects it to get between 40 to 44 seats in Himachal Pradesh. Gujarat, that's not the case because the voting happened only on Monday. I mean, the second phase and the last phase of voting. So they are not very hopeful anyway in case of Gujarat. On the performance of the government, of course, the party has broadly identified 3 areas where it need to corner the government. The winter session of parliament is also beginning next week. So one is on the attack, in quotes, the attack and interference in the functioning of institutions, be it the Election Commission, be it the Supreme Court, the judiciary, be it the CBI, or all those institutions. So the Congress believes the government is misusing these institutions. They're interfering in the functioning of these institutions. And second is the border standoff with China. So the party believes it needs to, bring this issue to the forefront to take on the BJP government, especially on the issue of nationalism. That is where the BJP creates a lot of noise around. So the party believes that's an issue on which it can take on the government. And third is in the economic situation. The slide in the value of rupee, unemployment, price rise, slide in import, all that can be part of the economic management, the management of the economy by the government. So on all 3 issues, the steering committee had a discussion, and the Congress plans to attack the government in Parliament when it begins next week.
Dear listeners, before we continue, a quick announcement. The Indian Express has released a new history podcast called Pages from the Past. You can listen to the first episode for free on our website. There will be a preview of the first episode at the end of today's show. You can also download our app where all the episodes are available for free. You can find the links in the description. Now on with the show.
Next, we talk about Paresh Rawal's comments on Bengali migrant workers in Gujarat. Speaking at an event, the actor and former MP said that the people of Gujarat could live with inflation or high gas prices, but would not tolerate living with illegal Bangladeshi migrants and Rohingyas. He also said, and I quote, "People will get employment. But when Bangladeshis and Rohingyas live around you like in Delhi, what will you do? With the gas cylinder, will you cook fish for those Bengalis?" Unquote.
એટલે તમારે જો ભાઈ ગેસનો બાટલો મોંઘો છે ને તો સસ્તો થઈ જશે. મોંઘવારી ઉપર ગઈ છે તો નીચે આવશે. રોજગાર પણ લોકોને મળશે. પણ આ બધું મળશે પણ તમારી આજુબાજુ જ્યારે બાંગ્લાદેશીઓને રોહિંગ્યા રહેતા હશે દિલ્હીની જેમ ત્યારે તમે શું કરશો? આ ગેસના બાટલામાં તમે શું પેલા બંગાળીઓની ફિશ પકાવશો? શું કરશો તમે?
In this segment, Indian Express's Sohini Ghosh joins us to talk about these remarks, the politics of food, and the challenges faced by Bengali migrant workers because of the Disturbed Areas Act. So, Sohini, could you first tell us about the Manik Chowk area in Ahmedabad, which houses most of the state's Bengali migrant workers?
So, Manik Chowk is basically an old city square of the walled Ahmedabad city. And during the day, it's like any old city square. It has a bunch of shops, very crowded, very lively, very busy. Most of these shops are your, utensil shops or clothing shops or jewelry shops, a lot of jewelry shops actually. In fact, I think it's the second largest jewelry market in India. And during the night, it turns into a food market, which is what it's more famous for. So more or less, this is what we see Manik Chowk. It comprises of a lot of migrants because all these shops, they do employ the migrant population from all over India. But Bengalis do form quite a significant chunk here because Bengalis otherwise are known for their craftsmanship in jewelry. And that is where they find their employment here. Apart from them, there are Gujaratis as well who work in these units or own these units. And say a lot of the Bengali migrants who are working here, they have been working since years, but they don't really comprise the voting population as a significant chunk.
Right, so Paresh Rawal commented on the migrant workers, which created quite a stir. Could you talk about that?
So, actor Paresh Rawal, who was earlier Lok Sabha MP from Ahmedabad as well, BJP MP, he had commented in Valsad while campaigning for BJP that while gas cylinder prices, they are at a high, he had kind of downplayed it, saying that it's high, but it will come low again. But what will you do when Rohingyas and Bengalis start populating, start being your neighbors? Kind of insinuating that Bengalis by default mean illegal Bangladeshi migrants and Rohingyas as well. So this kind of caused a stir in the political circles where the opposition kind of took on Paresh Rawal, and there was also an FIR lodged by CPIM in Calcutta. But if I talk about the Bengalis here in Ahmedabad, especially this migrant population or even those who are voters in this area of Manik Chowk, for them it does not really matter. They're quite accustomed, it seemed at least, that they're quite accustomed to such kind of frequent insinuations where they are termed as illegal Bangladeshis despite having all valid voter ID card, Aadhaar card, any other documentation which kind of proves their legality here. A lot of them are not even in any way connected to Bangladesh, but by virtue of them being Muslims, a significant population here is Bengali Muslims. So by virtue of them being Muslims, they do get branded like that. And for them, it has now become part of their daily life. they don't really bother about it because they have more pressing issues going on in their lives. So for them, this remark did not really matter. In fact, they were of the opinion that this is something usual that we see anyway during elections where, targeting of minorities or polarizing speeches are made, divisive speeches are made.
Okay, Sohini, so the Disturbed Areas Act. Can you tell us what that is and how does it affect the local population, migrants, or especially the Muslim population there?
So basically, this act allows the collector to designate any place as disturbed areas, but subject to some specific conditions. One of the key conditions being that probably this area sees frequent communal tension or communal riots or communal incidents. But this act, number one, is under challenge before the Gujarat High Court, primarily on the ground that this is making segregation a law, giving it validity. Segregation goes against the Constitution. So there was also an amendment made in 2020 which made the act even more stringent, and there were some vague terms that were introduced as to what would comprise a Disturbed Areas Act, and that amendment is also under challenge before the Gujarat High Court. Now, once an area is designated as a disturbed area, your transfer of property needs the collector office's nod. So basically, two private parties want to have a transfer of any immovable property. They would have to first get that nod from the collector, and the collector's decision would depend on no objection from, say, your neighboring areas or neighboring buildings.
So, Sohini, what kind of challenges does this act pose to Bengali migrant workers in Gujarat?
So, a Muslim is trying to buy a property in an area which is primarily Hindu dominated. So even if the Hindu party with whom the sale is going to happen, that party is agreeable to the sale, it will still face obstacles when, say, the opinions are sort of that Hindu guy's neighbors, the guy who lives on the floor above them, below them, around them. And even if one person objects, the whole sale can fall through. The idea of Disturbed Areas Act was, as the Act mentions, is that there should not be sale between, say, communities of different religions under duress. The sale should be with fair price and of free will. And this kind of objection that is sought from the neighbors, it is a way to ensure that no one is having an issue with the sale. So this kind of provision, it poses quite a big hurdle because practically anyone can take an objection on any ground and the collector can just refuse the sale. Even if the two parties who are involved in the transfer, they are agreeable to the whole thing. And even if they submit that the sale is of free will and at a fair price.
And in the end, we talk about milk cooperatives in Gujarat. The cash-rich milk cooperatives in the state became an important issue for the second phase of Gujarat elections, which was held yesterday. Earlier, these cooperatives were run by functionaries aligned with the Congress. Now they are controlled by leaders affiliated to the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. Indian Express's Avinash Nair joins us to talk about the political landscape of these dairy-producing areas. So, Avinash, can you first tell us how important the milk cooperatives are for Gujarat?
So while Banas Dairy in Banaskantha is the biggest in Gujarat, milk cooperatives in Anand, Sabarkantha, Mehsana and Panchmahal are among the top 5 milk cooperatives in Gujarat. Together they procure a phenomenal 75% of the 280 lakh litres of milk daily from the state. These milk cooperate as unions and are controlled by an umbrella body called the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation, which owns the brand Amul. These 5 large milk cooperatives are expected to influence more than 50% of the 93 seats that are going to the polls in phase 2. And a very large portion of these areas in which these milk cooperatives operate are rural. So there are milk cooperatives in Ahmedabad, Vadodara and Gandhinagar also. These are also areas which are going to the polls in phase 2. But these are relatively smaller milk cooperatives, and as these areas are more urban in nature.
And can you tell us why the milk cooperatives are important for the second phase of the Gujarat elections?
So GCMMF, or the umbrella body that I spoke to you about, has about 18 unions, and among these unions the Khera District Cooperative Milk Producers Union, headquartered at Anand, is one of the oldest, and currently it is being jointly run by the BJP and the Congress affiliated leaders, while the chairman of this particular cooperative is Ram Singh Parmar. He is with the BJP now, and the vice chairman Rajendra Singh Parmar is with the Congress. All the rest 17 milk cooperative unions are controlled by the BJP or the leaders who are affiliated with the party. So Ram Singh Parmar joined BJP only in 2017. Earlier he was with the Congress. In the assembly election, BJP has now given a ticket to his son Yogendra Parmar from the Thasra assembly seat, which also falls in the Kheda district, which is the area of operation of this particular milk cooperative. In the nearby Anand district, the vice chairman himself, which is Rajendra Singh Parmar, he is contesting as a Congress candidate from Borsat seat. So there is another very important leader from the milk cooperative sector. His name is Shankar Chaudhary. He is the chairman of the biggest dairy, which is the Banas dairy. He was a former BJP minister and is the chairman of this particular dairy. And he is contesting from Tharat seat in Banaskantha.
Right, so Avinash, these milk cooperatives or livestock rearing communities, is there any indication of a possible voting pattern by these sectors?
So it is very difficult to gauge, which party these farmers in the milk cooperatives will vote for. But what BJP has done over the years is that through the milk cooperatives, they have ensured that a significant amount of money goes into the farmers' hands. The farmers who are mostly women, who operate from these village level mandlis. These are the women who on a daily basis milk the cattle and supply the milk collected in their houses, respective houses, to the village level cooperative societies. From these village level cooperative societies, the milk gets transferred through milk trucks to the larger dairies. That's how the milk is collected. So you never know what kind of influence these farmers will have on the election pattern, a pattern of voting. But to put some figures in, GCMMF has increased the prices of milk by about 18 to 20% in the last 3-4 years. So we as consumers, we have seen the milk prices go up on a steady basis. So the money is actually going to the farmers in states like Gujarat, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, wherever this milk is getting collected from. And currently, a milk producing farmer in Gujarat earns 37 rupees for 1 liter of cow milk sold to GCMMF, and there is an income which is between 50 and 55 rupees for buffalo milk. This is per liter I am talking about. And in addition to this, say for instance a large dairy like Banas, it does an annual revenue of 15,200 crore, and there is a significant amount of profit. For the year 2021-22, this particular dairy made a profit of 1,650 crore. And all this profit was distributed among the farmer members. So the money is actually going back to the rural areas. So whether it will benefit the ruling BJP or whether there are some local issues which will play in favor of Congress, it's very difficult to say as of now.
So you have talked about BJP's work with the milk cooperatives. But can you tell us what Congress or Aam Aadmi Party has promised them in the election manifestos?
So as far as all the three parties are concerned, they have promised something or the other in their manifestos. For instance, BJP has promised subsidized cattle feed for the animal husbandry sector. They have also spoken about introduction of Pashu Aadhaar cards. Now these are Aadhaar cards to keep a check on the health and vaccination of the livestock in the state. This will be a novel initiative whenever it rolls out. As far as the Congress is concerned, they have promised about 5,000 rupees for every family that buys a cow. And similarly, AAP, which is actually non-existent in the milk cooperative sector at the moment, has also promised to give 40 rupees as a per day maintenance for every cattle in the state. So all these parties, they understand the importance of animal husbandry and milk cooperatives, and they have announced something or the other for these people.
And Avinash, can you tell us about the election rallies or groundwork organized by the political parties in this area?
Yeah, so let me mention here that the chairman of Doodh Sagar Dairy, who we actually spoke to a few days earlier, he has been moving around with Union Home Minister Amit Shah in North Gujarat areas, and campaigning for the BJP. Now he says how Doodh Sagar Dairy, for the first time in their 60 years history, gave about, I think, 321 crores to the farmers. This is basically profit that the dairy makes to the farmers, and he was pretty positive that all this will show when the election process ends. Amit Shah, even Prime Minister Modi, has gone to some of these rural areas and done election rallies as well.
Dear listeners, before we end today's show, here is a quick snippet from our history podcast, Pages from the Past. First episode, The Reluctant Princess, Travancore, the one with the assassination attempt.
Okay, so Aduja, which state are we talking about first?
So today we would be talking about Travancore.
Okay, can you give me a rough idea of what Travancore was like before the British left India?
The state traces its history to the 18th century, and at that time it occupied parts of what is today Kerala and Tamil Nadu as well. It was a maritime coastal state, very rich. The Diwan of Travancore, he would take pride in the fact that his state is just as good as Thailand and Belgium, these kind of constitutional monarchies. And the whole reason why Travancore did not want to join India in 1947 was because it was so rich that it knew that it can just survive all by itself.
Okay, so before the British exited, it still came under the British?
Yes. Despite being such a rich state, it needed the British, and there was a sort of a symbiotic relationship that Travancore had with the British, because at this moment, they needed a strong ally to protect itself from the neighboring Mysore kingdom. And the British, they also needed a coastal kingdom like Travancore so that they could keep away the French. So basically, they both needed each other, and a treaty of paramountcy just helped over here. And I reached out to historian Manu Pillai, who has recently written the book False Allies on the Princely States. And he explained to me in detail as to why the British and the Travancore state both needed each other to protect themselves.
In Travancore's case, it had been established in its modern avatar by the mid-18th century by a Maharaja called Martandavarma. Its successor, who ruled for a very long time, from 1758 till 1798, this gentleman had to face off threats from Hyder Ali of Mysore and then eventually Tipu Sultan of Mysore as well. So he had an incentive in cultivating the British because he needed strong allies, and the British were very clearly, by the second half of the 18th century, becoming stronger and stronger. The British had an incentive in keeping the Travancore Maharaja on their side because it again goes back to what I was referring to, which is Travancore's geopolitical position. It was on the coast, and the British were extremely paranoid about any coastal territory on that side of India becoming a platform for the French. The French are, of course, their enemies from Europe, and their rivals, the French trading company in India, were their commercial rivals for a long time in the 18th century. And they didn't want any powers in India to sort of flirt with the French.
You were listening to a preview from our new history podcast, Pages from the Past. You can listen to this entire episode for free at the links in the description.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was hosted by me, Anwiti Singh, and written and produced by me with the help of Utsa Sarmin. It was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.